built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
See, it's not that he was funding the opposition for all these years. It's complex. You dummies just wouldn't understand it. It's complex. It's even if you censor 1%, it sounded like me trying to explain to my wife how it's complicated that I ate an entire bag of Doritos before bed last night. Joining me now, great congressman from the state of Tennessee, Congressman Tim Burchett. I'm not allowed to call him congressman, though. So, Tim, look, calling me skeptical. I want to be a forgiving human being, but now we got Jeff Bezos wants to be friends, and Mark Zuckerberg wants to be friends. Bill Gates wants to be friends. Everyone wants to be friends now. I don't trust any of these freaking people as far as I can throw them.
I don't trust them as far as I can throw the dadgum dome off the Capitol, brother. Look, all they trust is their dollars. They're not on our team. Better be really careful with these guys. We get enamored with their, the celebrity of being whatever they are. God put them in a particular spot and just gave them a little bit of luck. And, they're not out. They don't do anything for me. I wouldn't step out of the electric chair to shake their hands. So I'm not a fan of that crowd. They're a one world government kind of group. And they are very arrogant. The Bible talks about people like that. It says, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. They look down upon us. We are all just cattle to them. And we better wake up. We get in bed with this bunch, and then we become what we hated just a couple of years ago. Let's be honest. They're afraid of Donald Trump because he doesn't care. He does not care about those cats. And so they know that, and so they're trying to suck up, and because he will eliminate what they do, I think, and they're afraid of it, and they should be.
Where are we at on speaking of eliminating things like TikTok? We're going to ban it. We're not going to ban it. I know Trump came out recently and said no. That's another. I like TikTok. What do we believe? I generally shy away from the federal government getting involved in banning anything because they just screw the whole thing up like they do everything else. But where do you stand on all this?
Well, with TikTok, it's really just an arm of the Chinese Communist Party. There's a reason they don't even have it in their country. Their country is an educational tool. Over here, it's used to market things and to change the mindset of our kids. During COVID, prior to COVID, you heard about transgender, but it wasn't that big of a thing. Now, all of a sudden, these kids are self-diagnosing themselves with it. And how they're doing that and why they're doing that is because, they get curious. They'll click on something on TikTok, and then the algorithm markets it towards them. And, what better way to take over our country than just to take over the minds of our children who will be our future leaders and weaken them. So, I see TikTok, what I'd like to see is an American-owned company. If there's something doing us harm, if they're doing something that's causing this country harm, which I believe TikTok is and was, then let's make some regulations so at least it has to be American-owned, and that we can maybe get a wall between us and some of the people trying to do us harm, because they are really just forcing this propaganda on our kids. I would warn you, these parents who don't pay enough attention to their kids, tell them to put these dadgum cell phones down and all that garbage that's being marketed towards them, because they're very crafty. For instance, my wife and I one day were talking about these Solo cups. A red Solo cup. Toby Keith, God rest his soul, had a great song about red Solo cups, although he hated that song. But we were talking about these aluminum ones they have now that are like made out of aluminum, but look like a Solo cup. And we were just talking about it in our kitchen. Within a couple hours, both of us were having ads pop up on our phones about these aluminum Solo cups for sale. Now, imagine that, taking that one step farther and your kids are talking to somebody about something sexual in nature or something harmful to them or what have you. And these are minor children. These are preteen children even. And then all of a sudden they're being marketed this stuff in that line. I think we better get a grip on what we're doing and what's going on. And the people that are responsible for it are those very same people that you just showed up on the board there that are sucking up to Trump and sucking up to the Republicans right now. They hate our guts, man. They would destroy us if they could. And again, we are just cattle to them. We're just numbers on a chalkboard to them.
I'll tell you, on the devices and the social media stuff too, I have two teenage boys of my own, and we obviously strictly monitor how often they're allowed to be on that stuff. But if we ever have a lazy day, negligent day, and we just tell them, go ahead for a couple hours, it's like I have two different kids. They go from being polite, well-mannered boys to freaking zombies, more likely to backtalk and get themselves grounded. It really is poison if you let your kids just disappear into that Instagram, Facebook world of filth out there.
I agree, and I'm glad you're a father, because anybody can, be a sperm donator, but dadgummit, you're a father, and I dig that. I can show you folks that are just on the opposite of that, and just how wild their kids are and how much trouble they're getting into, and we got to start taking responsibility for this stuff, man. And it's legislatively, but it's just parents stepping up, and the government tries too much to take everything else. These school districts not allowing parents to know what their kids are being taught or what's going on or anything like that. To me, it's just, that's straight out of the Soviet handbook. I know you didn't get me on to talk about that, and sorry I went to preach. And I guess I'll do a love offering when all this is over with. I'll pass the offering plate.
Oh,
in true
rant and rave against these.
I said in true Southern Baptist tradition.
We can rant and rave against these dirty commies for the whole segment for all I care. I don't have some kind of specific agenda here. Okay, I do want to ask you about the FBI. Obviously, everyone knows at this point in time this organization is seriously, seriously flawed. But we just had a horrible terrorist attack in Bourbon Street, God rest their souls. Had some guy blow up his Cybertruck in front of Trump Tower. And the problem is, Tim, that no one knows where to get accurate information anymore because the institutions we're supposed to rely on are completely against us. People keep asking me as if I have some special knowledge of something. I don't know. The organizations I would go to, they've been lying to me about everything, so I don't believe anybody. And that's kind of where we're stuck now. It's a big, big problem. And it doesn't feel like the people in Washington realize that it's a big problem. That's the kind of stuff that changes, that ends societies.
Absolutely. And too, you got to realize we're gutless and we're compromised. And I feel like FBI is compromised at the top levels. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and those agents there, every dadgum one I've met is patriotic, loyal Americans. Many of them are veterans, and they've served their country and they want to continue. It's just that upper level of management they have there has been compromised. Either they have to change to get to that level, or they're already changed and get to that level that way. And so you'll never get their straight answer. It's just like January 6th. Now we're coming to find out, it's common knowledge now. The FBI had people that were on the inside that were involved in that thing, that were helping instigate that. This isn't my mom and dad's FBI. This isn't the FBI. I have letters in my files from J. Edgar Hoover where my granddad was writing him about the communists trying to take over things, and Mr. Hoover was kind enough to write my granddad back in Clarksville, Tennessee. And I just I worry about our country. The infiltration is just so deep. I just feel like we're almost to the point where somebody could literally flip a switch and we would lose our country. And I think that was the plan all along. I think the anarchy that these people are sowing, like today, the Lake and Riley Act, a little girl brutally murdered and raped in Georgia, and this dirtbag who they couldn't send to hell fast enough. I'd publicly, excuse my language, just put another dollar in the swear jar, but But that guy, look, man, I got IOUs at the house. My little girl, Dad. Nah, I know, honey. I guess I got IOUs in my swear jar. I guess I do it. I need to watch my language. I just get riled up about this stuff, man. I got a little girl, and these I've got 159, 158 Democrats voted against this act just now. Now, how in the world? I don't care if you're an atheist and hate everything about this world and everything, but how in the world can you justify some dirtbag coming over our border that we allowed to? Again, the reason they don't vote against this stuff is because they have to admit they created a problem. 14 million people in the last 4 years that we know. Heck, it's probably 20 or 30 million. You got over 100 on a terrorist watch list. Could you imagine if Trump had allowed illegals to come and then in our own State Department said, yeah, these people are terrorists, our own border people. Yeah, these people are on the terrorist watch list, and we let them into our country and probably gave them money and gave them an apartment, and this is reality. Now, I want to tell you one other. I've got a bill, and dadgum Elon Musk tweeted about it last night. I wrote a letter to Trump because we're funding the dadgum Taliban. $40 million a week we're sending the Taliban. Hey, those dirtbags will hate us for free. We don't have to give them money, but we're giving them $40 million. It flows through some of these NGOs and other things. And, it's just too much. It's too much. And thank goodness Elon got onto it last night. Guy Sean Ryan over in Nashville, Middle Tennessee, he's a former Navy SEAL. He's got this podcast, and he got me on there and talking about it. And I dig into it a little farther. I'm thinking, you hear this stuff all the time. You think, oh, that can't be true. Dadgum, it is the truth. And thank goodness a reporter from OAN, what was his name? Brian what? Brian, dadgum, I can't. What?
Glenn.
Yeah, Brian Glenn from OAN. He asked the president about it. And so it's on their radar. But, I passed the bill just a few weeks ago in the House. It went to the Senate, and the senators wouldn't even take it up. How in the world what country am I living in, man? And this stuff is just every day. And these anarchists that we think are statesmen, the ones that are saying we need to talk about compromise. The only time they talk about a dadgum compromise is when they're in the minority, not when they're in the majority. So hopefully we'll get something passed on that. There's a lot of wind behind that bill now, which is good. I'm going to refile it, make it stronger, and hopefully we'll get it passed in this Congress.
Well, fingers crossed, but it does my heart well knowing I went to work today to fund the Taliban. Tim, thank you as always. You are welcome anytime on my show, sir. Appreciate you. That guy murders me, man. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.